Hi, welcome to Chi for Yourself. Great to have you with us wherever you are in the world today. Our guest on this show is Echo Bodine. She is a spiritual healer, psychic teacher, and lecturer who speaks on intuition, spiritual healing, life after death, among other things. Echo is a best-selling author. She has her own blog and monthly radio show, too. She's making her second visit to the show and brings with her a new book called What Happens When We Die, a psychic's exploration of death, heaven, and the soul's journey after death. And, you know, since we're talking about the soul, let's just start out today, Echo, with a definition of just exactly what the soul means. We hear the word a lot, but what are we talking about when we say the word the soul?
Well, what we're talking about is us, our essence, our personality. Oh gosh, it's us, and our soul is made up of energy. It looks just like we do. It's kind of like a twin of ours, and it really is what we are all about. And, you know, when I was a little girl, I didn't really, you know, that prayer when I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And I think that was probably the only reference I ever heard really about my soul. And I don't know, it didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand it. So it's been a fun journey for me to discover what a soul really is and to realize how much of us is actually our soul that's communicating with everyone and living its life. So was that
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Was that a fair enough answer?
No, that's a very good answer. That's a very good answer because, like I said, we hear that, we bounce that word around, we all use it, so, and nobody has really, I think, stopped to think just what is a soul. It's just kind of this nebulous thing. So thank you for that. What prompted you to write this book at this point in your life?
You know why, John? Because I'm so aware of so many people dying in the last few years, and listening to people talk, people that are in their grieving process, people that are dying themselves, and they don't know what to do. They, you know, they don't know how to act. A lot of people get very depressed and kind of go within and just stay there while they're in their dying process, and then for all the people who are left behind, they don't know what, you know, they don't know what to do. And I thought, you know, I know this next statement is going to sound terrible, but I just found that religion is not bringing people peace of mind around the issue of death like we would hope it would. And, you know, people go to funerals and the minister or the clergy says, you know, God wanted your loved one at home. Or your loved one's in a better place. And, you know, people say to me, how do I know that? You know, what is a better place? I don't know what that means. Why did God take my loved one away from me? I really love that person. I miss that person. And so it's hard to turn to this God for consoling when we're grieving, when it's that same very God that we've been told has taken our loved one away from us. And I thought, you know what? I've learned so many cool things about death and life after death, and I thought, I want to write a book. And, you know, it's a little book. A lot of people have commented it's such a little thing, but it's just jam-packed with stories and experiences that I've had. That my hope is to bring comfort to people about the dying process, about what actually happens when we die, and, you know, where does our soul really go? It just seems, John, I mean, have you noticed that there's a lot more deaths in the last couple of years than there have been? Or is it just my age group? I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I notice it more. It's like when you buy a red car and you see a lot of red cars on the road. Yeah, and now in my age group, like you said, I'm in my 6th decade here, and I'm seeing people certainly that I know, classmates, even family members, and it seems like death is everywhere.
Yes, it does. It just does. I mean, I hear it from people all the time, and you read Facebook, and, you know, people's parents are passing away quickly. You know, people aren't lingering in their dying process as much as they used to, and so it just seemed like the perfect time to bring the book out.
Yeah, and you've made it. You've shown it to be the natural thing that it is too, and you've handled it so well. As a psychic medium, you make, of course, contact with the dead. How do the dead show themselves to you? How does that experience play out?
Well, you know what, John? It's really. I mean, I feel really lucky that I get to see them because they appear just like we do. If you or I die today, you know, our soul just comes out of the body, and it looks just like us, except that it's transparent. You can see through it. And the soul, you know, they don't walk, they float. They can fly. You know, we all have these flying dreams, and that's exactly what it's our soul when we're having those dreams. Our soul is just out, you know, kind of cruising around, and that's what happens is the soul comes out of the body, and it goes through the tunnel, and it goes into the light, and, you know, heaven is just the most amazing place. It's just gorgeous over there. So I see it really as the person's double. You know, they look just like their twin. Comes out of the body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See them. They look at me as a person. You know, they look just like they're looking at me, and they're just what's the word? Kind of transparent. And you know, I've never seen a soul that looks creepy or scary. It's just regular folks.
Yeah.
That's how the soul appears to me.
Mm-hmm. You use the word process, the whole dying process. It's very good. You say it's important for us to talk to and listen to the dying. And given that it's an emotional time, it may be difficult to think clearly. How do we begin the conversation, and what should we bring out or even leave out?
You know what? I've been through this with a lot of different folks, clients, family members, not my own family members, my mom and my dad, but friends. And what I have found is to just say to them, you know, tell me about your life, and tell me about your good memories and maybe your not so good memories, and, you know, do you have regrets? Tell me the happy times. And, you know, once they start going, sometimes it's hard for people to talk about themselves because they've been raised to believe that that's selfish. But once they get past that, oh, really? You're really interested in my life? Usually they just start talking, and they remember things they had forgotten a long time ago. And I always see it as a very healing part of their journey in letting go of their life, to just let them reminisce. And I know, you know, people say, well, I don't want to say anything about them dying. But, you know, the person that's dying knows they're dying. And usually the living family members, it's very interesting to watch them, John, because they, you know, everybody gets together. Maybe they go to the hospice, or they go to the hospital, or maybe they're still in an assisted living place. The whole family gathers around and they talk, but nobody says to the dying person, you know, how are you doing? You know, I know it's kind of freaky to say to somebody you're in your dying process, but maybe to just say, how are you feeling about this part of your journey? Do you want to talk about what the next step is going to be? And some of them say, yes, I do. Some say, no, I don't want to talk about it. And okay, just respect what they want. But it's really good to get them talking, because it really relieves a lot of their fears. I have found a lot of people are afraid to die just because it's the unknown. And you know, it's just sad. It's sad that there's so much fear around death. But again, we just, you know, somebody sent me an email the other day and said, there's so many books on life after death, and how do I know which one to believe? And, you know, that's true. There are a lot of books about this is what happens when you die, and the best way that people can tell if a book is on track or not is they will intuitively know when they pick up the book if it feels right to read it, and if it has this vibe to it, this energy about it of, ooh, I don't want to read this book, then put it down. It's not going to resonate with your soul at all. So talk to the dying, let them talk. don't pretend that you know what they're going through, because you don't. You're not in a dying process. And just ask them, what does it feel like right now to be going through this process? And really, it helps them to process what is going on with them. It really is a gift that you can give to them by talking and listening.
Is this a good time then to talk to the dying about their plans for what they want done during the or just after their death, or should all that be taken care of beforehand?
You know, that's an interesting question, because there's some people that just automatically take care of it. You know, I just talked to someone last night who was telling me about her husband's will, and they were just very matter of fact about it. It wasn't even it wasn't an emotional issue. But neither one of them are sick, and so, they didn't. It's easy to do it when you're thinking about that. Oh, maybe it's 30 years from now. It gets more emotional for people when they know that they're in their dying process, and yet it's really important for us, the living, to say to the dying, okay, I know you might not want to talk about this, but we need to talk about this. And, they might say, no, it's too early, we don't need to have this discussion. But, if you can say to them, it would make things easier for me if I knew what you wanted. Then, they're a little more, okay, all right, yeah, let's talk about it. And I've also found that once they do talk about what they want, when they pass, once that conversation's done, they actually feel a sense of relief, like I don't have to think about it anymore, I don't have to talk about it anymore. My mom, for a long time, I'd say, Mom, we need to talk about what you want us to do. No, we're not going to talk about it. Oh, okay. And then when she went into hospice, she was still clear-headed. She lived for another July, August, September, October, 4 months. And it was then that she said to us, okay, now let's talk about it. And it was a subject she brought up, and she wanted to finally take care of it and address all of the different questions. And then she felt this great sense of relief after having the conversation. So, again, intuitively, I think people will sense, should I start the conversation or should I wait for them to start the conversation? But, I think about one of the stories that I wrote about in the book. A man, his wife had been sick their whole marriage, and they hadn't been married very long, but she was always sick, always in the hospital. And after she died, he called and he said, oh, everything's in such a mess. She's got accounts all over the place, and I don't know any of the passwords. She never wrote anything down. She didn't have a will. And I said to him, she's been in the hospital most of your marriage. Why didn't you guys talk about this? Well, we didn't want to talk about it. Well, that's silly to me. I mean, he told me that it took him a year to get all of her stuff straightened out. And, that's when you're going through a grieving process, that is hard enough without having to try to figure out everybody's passwords and the money that you have to pay. And I mean, there's just so much when a person passes away that we don't think about. And so it's being very smart. It's also being extremely responsible to take care of your family and say, okay, I'm going to take care of this because I don't want you to have to. So really, it's something we all need to take care of, and we need to have conversations with our loved ones, not based on, it's like, don't make it a hard conversation, just have it. It's, that's the thing, John. It's like, why do we make death such a taboo subject when it's something every one of us does? And it doesn't mean that we're going to bring it on any faster. It just means we're taking care of business. And so, it's just important. It's so important for all of us, for the living and the deceased, to take care of that kind of business.
Yeah. Well, the culture has wrapped so many weird things around death that it's a wonder we keep our marbles, the way people treat that. I mean, they'll talk about sex and money, but death is like so weird, and it's so natural. Very strange. Staying with grief and your mother's passing, given what you know about death and the dying process, was grief different for you, easier or clearer? How did that work?
John, my sister and I both, my sister's also a psychic, and we both talked about, we thought, okay, well, when Mom passes, this will be easy, because, our mom was a psychic also, so it's like, okay, this will be easy, Mom will come and visit us, and, we can all still have tea together and hang out, and it was it's continued to be very surprising to both my sister and I how little our mom has visited since she died, and also how little energy she has. She was very sick for a long time, and that really, it's interesting because it's almost like it just drained her reserve tank. She told us when she first passed away that she said, girls, it's going to be a while before I can visit. And she said, I'm very, very weak. And so, I look at how we've gone through this grieving process, and I look at other people, and yeah, I would have to say it's been different for us because we know about life after death. My sister's a medium, and so she communicates a lot with the deceased. And we know we've seen heaven. We know how wonderful it is. So we know that Mom is really lucky, and she's in a really cool place. She's no longer physically sick. But also the grieving process was, wow, it was just so different with Mom versus Dad. Mom was like, and I've heard this from other people, it's like, wow, it's really different when your mom passes away. And John, it was more like, gosh, how do I explain it? The whole umbilical cord thing. It's like, even though we're no longer physically connected by an umbilical cord, it's almost like we still have that connection to their body. Mm-hmm. And when her body died, that was a very unique feeling of almost like, wow, I just got cut loose from my anchor, and wow, now I'm on my own kind of thing. And so that was a very different experience. Also, as I say in the book, you feel so raw and vulnerable, and every time I go out in public, I'd want to wear a big sign that said, my mom just died, please be nice to me, because you just feel so soft and fragile. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful that I got to have that experience, because I learned so much when she did pass away. On the other hand, I wish I didn't have to have gone through it. I wish she was still here. But the truth is, this is just the way life goes. So I think because of being a psychic, yeah, I think it's been easier for all of us. I do. My brother's also a psychic, and so we talk a lot about it. And, we've always got that ear open to her voice if she feels like coming by to talk. It's nice. It's nice.
We have different kinds of fears about death and what's going to happen when we die, and one of those is that we don't want to die alone. But you say in the book that we never die alone. How is that?
You know what, John? I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's one thing I hear from people all the time, including my mom, was, I don't want to be alone when I die. And, we aren't. That's something that I saw many, many times when clients would die, was that they were never alone. Even if, and I hear stories over and over and over of, the whole family unit was there with them at the hospital or in the hospice, and, we were there around the clock, and we never left. We always had someone with them because we didn't want them to die alone. And yet, John, from a psychic perspective, every time I would be with a family like that, I would see all these deceased loved ones from the other side. They would be there in the same hospice room, in the same hospital room, waiting to take that soul over to the other side. So when the soul comes out of the body, even if no one is there physically, their soul is surrounded by loved ones. There might just be one or two. There might just be one really close deceased loved one there. But all these souls have someone that takes them on to the other side. So for all of the people that are listening to your show today, if they are sitting with a loved one and they get up and they run to the bathroom and the loved one dies while they're gone, so many people have contacted me and said, oh, I feel so guilty because I went downstairs to have a cigarette and my mom died. That's fine. It's actually easier for the soul to slip out of the body if it doesn't have all these family members sitting around crying and praying that they get better, that they do better. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's often, and I tell in the book that a mortician friend of mine, I asked him one time, what's the one thing you hear over and over and over? And he said, people say, I was with her around the clock for weeks. Mm-hmm. And one afternoon, I had to run to the doctor myself, and she died. Mm-hmm. And, I feel so bad that I wasn't there with her. No, that was her time that she could finally step out of her body and go and not have to worry about leaving all the loved ones behind that were sitting there in the room crying and praying for a miracle. So, we need to look at this from the soul's perspective, what makes it easier for the soul, and that's what it is.
Yeah. I grew up hearing that the dead move on to a better place, that they immediately know the answers to life's questions. They're much happier in this state. But you write that the dead actually grieve their own passing. Now, explain why there would be any grief if a person is headed to such a positive place.
Well, John, it's kind of like, if we go down to, let's say, let's pick a beautiful spot on Earth, if we go down to the Bahamas, let's say, but if we're not in a good place, we can be surrounded by all the beauty in the world, and we're still going to have our beliefs. We're still going to be sad if we go down there depressed. We're still going to have stuff. And, the beauty of the place helps. It's wonderful to look out and see this gorgeous scenery, but you still have yourself to deal with. And so, a friend of ours just passed away about a month ago, and I tune into him because he's a family member. I check in on him regularly, and he's okay. He's on the other side, but he still is in his grieving process because he misses his wife and his daughter so much. And we go through a grieving process when we pass through the tunnel, go into the light, get on the other side. We begin a new life, but we still go through the grief of, we're letting go of a whole life that we have worked hard to create. We're letting go of friends. We're letting go of the material possessions we had. We're letting go of all of it, all that we have built up for the last 60, 70, 80, 90 years. And so there's a sadness. Now, is there sadness in everyone? No. I've seen some people go over to the other side and they're just done. They just feel like, nope, there's nothing to mourn. I'll see my loved ones again. And they also know on the other side that when they're strong enough, they can come back here and visit their loved ones. And so they don't have that deep sense of loss that we do because they can still come and visit. We feel it because we don't get to physically see them anymore.
There are many, I guess, for lack of a better word, what I would call heavenly scenarios detailed in the book. Where does hell fit in, or does the concept of hell fit in?
You know what, John? The spirits told me that there is a place in heaven that was created, believe it or not, by us, our consciousness. It's like religion has taught us that there is a place called hell, and that if we are bad people, we're going to go to this burning inferno. Okay. And so that keeps all of us in line and blah, blah, blah. Well, for some people, they're not in line. And so when they die, they expect that they're going to go to this hell. And so the angels have told me that it's actually us human beings that have created this place on the other side that would be like a hell. And so these souls who think, oh, I know when I die I'm going to hell, when they go over to the other side, they actually go to this place because that's where they believe they're supposed to go. But the angels have all said to me, God would never create a place of a burning hell to send any of us to, and that God loves us unconditionally, and that God is not sitting around judging, oh, who should go to hell and who doesn't get to go to hell. So this is all man-made stuff that we have heard for centuries, and it's just not true. And I'm sure there's people out there that are going to say, who the heck am I to make that statement? But I've seen it enough to know that it's not true. Yeah.
You talk.
I know.
You mentioned in the book about checking in with souls. You use the expression checking in, and I don't want to give anything away here. Obviously, we can read about it to find out more, but I'll be a name dropper, and you've mentioned some very well-known names here: Princess Diana, President John Kennedy, the dead from the Columbine shootings, and I realized they all died violently and suddenly. How have they done on the other side?
They're all doing fine now. It was, when you die suddenly like that, it can be a shock to the soul. And once a soul has been over there for a while, then they start to remember their life plan, and that, oh, that's right, this is what was part of my life plan, to die this way, to die at this age, to die at this time. So all of those souls that you just mentioned are all doing fine. They're, they love it on the other side. They've got their new lives going on over there. It takes time. It takes time for people who die instantly. Yeah, it can take them some time to adjust to what's going on. Mm-hmm.
You paint a very encouraging picture, really, of what's in store for our souls. Is there anything in this process that you've seen so far that actually scares you, makes you fearful in the process?
No, I'm not fearful of death or the dying process. So many souls have said to me, dying was the easiest thing I've ever done, because your body... John, I see a lot of souls that actually leave the body before the death actually occurs. That happened with my dad. That happened with this friend of ours. Before the actual accident took place, his soul stepped out of his body. And so the body didn't feel the physical pain. He was totally, he wasn't conscious of what was coming. And I don't, I guess if I have any fears about death, it's not the death itself, it's the, what do I have to go through to get there? I don't want to end up going through a long medical process. That sounds horrible to me. But the actual dying and the actual going to the other side is, from what I've experienced, it's an amazing experience, a very, very positive experience.
One last question, and we'll let you go here. Given all of your experience in the area of death and dying, what single point can the reader take away in preparation for their own experience with someone who's dying?
Boy, what would be one single thing? Well, I can guarantee you that you'll see your loved one again, that they're not that far away. We seem to think heaven is way, 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 way far away, but it's not. Our loved ones can still hear us. If you want to communicate to a deceased loved one, always talk to them out loud, because they are not standing around heaven listening to our thoughts every day. And so talk to your loved ones out loud. It was really cute, John. When my mom passed, it was about a week later, and I thought, oh, Mom, I just really miss you. But I don't want to pull on your energy. I don't want to, oh, Mom, come and take care of me. And I said, I don't know why. I don't know. And John, it was so cool. One of my spirit guides said, you can always leave her a message. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, there are message takers on the other side. So you can just say to them, when you see my mom, would you please tell her that I love her and that I miss her? And I heard this voice say, sure, I'll do that. And so the people that are listening, they can do that too. You can send messages to your loved ones, and they take messages. And then I saw this picture of people at the end of the day going and getting their messages. It was really cute. Who ever thought of that?
Convenient.
Yeah, and smart, really.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very, very comforting, as your writing always is. Your website's still echobodine.com, right? I mean, we can still find you there.
Yes.
And your blog, which I've read, is wonderful. They talk about comforting. I mean, it's always encouraging to read. And you can we contact you there too, as far as a client who may want to talk to you?
Yeah. You know what, John, right now I'm not doing readings just because I'm doing so much promotion of the book, but they can go to the website, and I have referrals there. If people want to contact deceased loved one, they can contact my sister, Echo Bodine. Her information is on my website also. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's plenty of good referrals on the website, and
That's great.
I think that, yeah, there's a lot of comforting information there for people.
All right, the book is What Happens When We Die, A Psychic's Exploration of Death, Heaven, and the Soul's Journey After Death, from Echo Bodine. Echo, thanks for being with us today. You are always welcome. Please come back.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you, John.
All the best to you. Have a great day, Echo. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, and we will link to Echo Bodine's website. When you visit chiefforyourself.com, you'll see the link there, and you can get more information on our guest and guests for that matter. When you're there, don't forget to subscribe to the site. That way you'll stay informed on all matters that are concerned with Chief for Yourself, including guest scheduling. And it's been the last few weeks that have been very good to us, and we're expecting more good things in November and beyond. So make sure you register, and you'll get all of the information right up front straight away. That's going to do it for now. Thanks for being with us today. Be well, and I will talk to you soon.